that there would be city funds available, but that has since changed.
Right, it was supposed to be a
So-
joint city and county venture, and they were going to hire an organization to come in and implement these plans for both the city and county. County kind of backed off of their DEI initiatives. The city said, okay, well, we can just go it alone. Funding did not materialize. So then they were like, well, we can hire a DEI specialist to implement this. That didn't materialize. So they said, well, let's just put it on Mike's job. And I added it to my
Great idea.
already
Great idea.
full plate. And so that's where we are. So.
So you're gonna hear a lot of, we need to work within the strategic plan, but also working within the confines of our current reality versus the reality that was very rose colored when the strategic plan was made.
Right.
So, like, I think last meeting, we had a conversation about, there was something that mandated, this must be done, and I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. We don't have that kind of authority, we don't have the backing to do that, so. Yeah, this is one of those things that instead of an outside person auditing, now the best we're gonna get is Mike doing it internally. So I think that's where we are.
So in essence, one of the things that could happen is like possibly just seeing who can volunteer to present this.
To whom?
To who?
Who are we presenting it to?
Well, he's gotta conduct
Yeah.
the audit to start with.
Right.
And then that's the first step, so that's
what I'm
where we
saying,
are, yeah.
Whatever we go to, like this person.
Right.
So my vision was I would conduct the audit and then report back to the board on
Okay.
here are the things we're currently doing. And then based on that information, the board can say, well, in order to achieve more of this, have we considered this?
Right.
Or have you considered that? And then that would be part of implementing new strategies.
Yeah.
To achieve these goals. So like, I think you put it very well, when you said that there's just kind of a snapshot to show where we currently are.
I definitely like the layout and everything in here. It's a great way to just get people's views on there, especially to put down like strat practices, policies, procedures, to achieve this goal, get their feedback and say what they think on that. So that's.
So let's actually just step back for a second, and can you go to the top of the document? And let's just start, because I think at this point, what Mike needs from us is feedback on whether or not these questions are things we want asked, and whether or not we're giving him the go-ahead on this document to move forward basically on the behest of the board. So I'd like to start with the top, and let's just work our way through the document, and let's just discuss each question. So
Who's going to be asking? Who's this going to be?
Mike is going to be doing this assessment.
With whom?
Just myself.
No, but
who are we
who's going
assessing?
to get this
He
stuff?
is.
Who's going to be answering
He-
these questions?
He is, yes.
You're gonna, it's just you or it.
So
that's
he's
it?
going to assess different departments, different documents within the organization to see if these things are
Okay.
true so again, this is because we don't have
Right.
financial resources. It will be Mike.
That's
So
what I
Mike will look
think.
at departments, at procedures, at job descriptions, and see, do they fit? In this scope,
Mhm.
does he believe that all of our employees are aware of the organization's commitment to equal opportunity in employment? Yes or no? And if not, probably some explanation. If yes, I think it's probably sufficient, right?
Right, that's what I'm
Right.
envisioning. So like,
Okay.
let's just take number one for an example.
Yeah.
If I answer no and say, I don't believe our employees are aware of our commitment, and then I would go through and describe, all of the training that we do or lack thereof, whether our trainings are mandatory or voluntary. And then based on that, we'll have a conversation about, okay, if we want to be able to check yes, when we re-audit this, what do we need to do? Do we need to try and push for mandatory training versus voluntary training? Do we need to push for having more EO conversations during our new hire orientations? So just.
Well, I think this question to begin with is so broad. Are you specifically saying in that question, all city employees are aware? You're saying all employees of the city of Wichita is what you're asking? Because there's no way you could say yes.
Well,
Well,
then what
that's
would
what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I think that we need to have another option possibly there of some are, some not, because you've talked about all these 50 million different departments you have. And so it's certainly possible that some are more well-informed than others. And so I don't want to, have a blanket no if there's some that don't do it and some are. But so
So maybe it's our majority of employees, maybe just change the wording a little bit. What do you think? Do you think
How
that's still
many
very broad?
Employees does the city of Wichita have?
About 3,100.
But
Right.
yes, but every person that's employed goes through training, and part of that training is this information. They are required to go through that training. And so unless they sat there with their ears closed, yes, it does. I know. I hired and fired people. I'm trying to hire people now. So I know what happens,
So
but
maybe reword it to say, do employees have the opportunity to be? 'Cause that's what we're
Are,
getting.
are our employees aware of?
Made
it?
aware.
You're made aware of something, but otherwise, that's
Yeah.
putting a lot of weight on your shoulders, let alone every department head to be able to, I mean,
No,
where
I-
they made the opportunity to know this or
Right,
something.
yeah, I
think it's
like
just
the
a
yeah,
little
list on.
yeah,
broad.
just,
Yeah, that's,
okay.
Whether they take advantage of it or not, cause yeah, even if you have it available on a website somewhere, or they can talk to their employer, you know, their boss or something about it, you can lay all that stuff out.
I mean, technically, aren't there like federal posters that are supposed to be posted at every
and
job
those are
site?
the
So
kind-
they
and that's
should
the kind
know.
of stuff that we were gonna put
Right.
in.
Right.
Here's what we do. you know, we-
Qualifiers.
Yeah, we follow the guidelines for,
Right.
you know, all
Right.
these postings and.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on to number 2? All right,
So like the number 2 one, they're asked to, and is it fair for me to assume that they have to complete it either in a physical, clicking a button and getting it emailed, I mean, you know, a direct
Right.
or a piece of paper that then you all register and can put in their file that they completed it every year?
And that would be what we would, how we would respond to that, because there is an annual refresher training that's mandatory.
Mandatory,
And we would be able to look at and see who took it, who didn't,
right,
what's the follow, you know, what kind of follow-up
What
do we
happens
do
if
if
they
somebody
don't take
doesn't
it?
take it?
right.
So
right.
that's how we
So-
would,
so I do want to clarify that what we're trying to do is check yes or no on whether or not we want this question included, or if we think the question should be removed, a different one put in. We're not looking, because Mike will do this and then give us all the explanations of how they do things internally. So, yeah, I just want to make sure that we're,
Well, and I'm interested, again, in this, if we're having a full conversation about this, not only did they participate in at least one, I would like to know what trainings were offered.
that's a whole nother conversation that we are working on as part of another part of our strategic plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's no part of that in this.
well, I mean, he's gonna know, but I don't
it would
know.
depend on, I mean, we would have to change, but right now, we're just looking, did they participate in at least one? I think that's a different question than what's offered, like,
It
whether
is a
they have
very
the
different question.
opportunity to participate in.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, because again, like, we've kind of brought this up in the past, and maybe this isn't the place where, and you can tell me that. Like, if it's just about, you know, one particular subject, but yet we have all these other things that could be talked about and offered.
I mean, are they all picking the same class? And
Yeah,
not
is
taking the
everybody
other?
The
going to
mandatory
one
one
thing?
is the same,
Yeah,
but there are other,
yeah, and I'd like to
Classes
know
they offer.
attendance for those and stuff, if that's possible, but if that's not possible, then
I mean,
I'm
I'd
not
have to work
trying
with
to-
the training coordinator, but I think for purposes of this, we want to get a baseline of, are they doing at least one? Are they doing the one mandatory one
Mhm.
that we are requiring everybody to do?
Okay.
And how are we following through if
If
they
they're
are not?
Okay.
Is, I mean, yeah, because if it's required and they don't do it and nothing happens, what's the point of a requirement?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So are we good with that question? Okay. And I think to your point, we will get that information later on with another goal that we have in the strategic plan, just so you're aware. Not trying to
Not in this
dismiss it, I'm just
document.
saying it's just not in this document. It will come later.
So
right.
so even this organizational questions have shown a commitment in DEI initiatives.
Oh, sorry, yes, now we're ready to move on to number
Right,
3.
right.
All right.
So organizational leaders have shown a commitment.
Well, again, this is where Mike is looking for our feedback. So if we don't like this question, this is the time to speak up and start talking through how we want to word it. Or changed, or what are your concerns?
Well,
about that?
I think shown a commitment to discussing the DEI initiatives, to learning about the DEI, because that's a judgment call. That's basically saying, is every organizational leader committed
That's
to
the
DEI?
objective, yeah.
Is that really what you're asking? Or are you asking that the organizational leaders are committed to sharing, discussing, or teaching the DEI initiatives of the city of Wichita?
How does that differ?
One is a personal thing. Are you personally committed to the DEI initiatives? The other is as the organizational leader, are you leading with the DEI initiatives, or are you personally? I'd read it two different ways.
I don't see any personal in it because they're organizational leaders. Like, to me, it's saying like within the organization. I don't,
No, it doesn't say that.
isn't that what
I'll be quiet.
the audit is about? What's going on within
Within the
the
organization.
organization?
Right.
Yeah, the organization is Wichita, so
Okay.
it's within the organization.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on number 3?
Should we add an unknown, like if someone is moved to a new department or they don't know yet, how are we going to address for folks who don't necessarily have an answer for that question based on their experience? Maybe they're just new. Just curious.
Well, just that reminder that this is an audit that Mike will be doing internally. So this is not going out to employees so this will be Mike himself. So I will let Mike answer whether or not he feels there's a need to have an unknown.
So I think what we're looking at is more globally, not specific to a particular department. So what the question is trying to drive at is what, at our management level and above, what have we put in place to show this commitment to these initiatives, and are they doing them? So, what are our departments doing if there's a complaint of discrimination or harassment? Is it reported to a supervisor and it just dies? Or do they get it to me and it's properly investigated? So those are when I was writing this question, that's what I was envisioning is, the initiatives that we do have, making sure our hiring panels are diverse. Are they abiding by that policy? Are all the people on our hiring panels trained like they're supposed to be? Are our departments actually doing the initiatives? Because to me, that would be how they show commitment to the initiatives, they actually do them.
So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe a better way, just as a thought, is to maybe wordsmith it a little differently to where it kind of says that in a more succinct way.
Mhm.
So that the question is more clear, so that anybody reading it, it could be broadly interpreted, just like Art had concerns about. So maybe if there's a way you can say that a little more clearly with the question.
Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie's got her hand up. Carrie, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was wondering if there would be benefit to having some nuance here beyond yes or no, like agree, do not agree, right? Or like agree, somewhat agree, neutral, somewhat disagree, right? Like having some nuance in there, because some of these, and then that also maybe alleviates some of the pressure of the language being precise, right? Do you see what I mean? Rather than just yes or no, is there a benefit to having some nuance in that? That's my question.
I think we're getting too caught up on the yes, no, because we can actually do it without the yes or no. Like the question could just be describe policies, practices, and procedures that illustrate organizational leader commitment to
Yeah.
DEI initiatives.
Yeah,
So I think my suggestion would be to just get rid of the yes or no
Okay, sounds
and
good.
just leave it as an open-ended question that,
That you have to fill out the
But
paragraph
then
below.
why are you even asking the question? I mean, because sorry, Michael, but see, if you put in there what you are supposed to do, each of the organizational leaders are supposed to be doing, and because you know what they're supposed to be doing, and you're asking this question, I guess, of yourself and your own assessment of what they're supposed to be doing, then it's not even a question.
Well, so maybe instead of the yes or no, you could add a summary section where you put in your description there and then a summary of my findings are, we are mostly complying with this, we are not, we are, you know, maybe something like that. So we get rid of yes and no, but maybe part of your explanation provides a little summary of your findings. Does that make sense? And is that okay?
I mean, I think it's exactly what you were talking about.
I think
at the
that's what
very
you were planning to do,
beginning.
but.
Here's this policy, here's this procedure, we are following that to a T. I've seen it 100% in the last
Yeah,
year.
like what
and then-
percentage are they doing
And
it? I
then
mean,
this policy, the complaints, 4 out of, 50 were dropped. We need to, what can we, and then we have that conversation about what can we do to change that? So I think that kind of summation, I think does that make sense? I mean, it's
Yeah.
exactly what you were saying at the
Yes.
very beginning.
Just without, yeah.
What is being done and what is not being done?
Right.
Okay, I think somebody else had their hand raised. I just can't see. Cause we
I
can't.
did have two there.
Okay. Ms. Talia, would you mind? Go ahead.
Hey, yes, thank you and good evening. I'm kind of new to the board, so just forgive me here. So when it comes to the audit, does the body have the authorizing, I guess, authority to audit? Are we auditing the city? And was this off the request?
Gave
Go
it
ahead.
to yourselves in the strategic plan.
Yeah, so the strategic plan, when it was passed by this board, was given to the city council and they accepted it as it was, so I suppose.
And auditing was one of the points that they agreed to?
Yes, this is,
Yes, it
this is
is.
a point in that. Now, again, this is, yeah, so that's the answer is this was part of the strategic plan that the city council accepted.
Okay, and so since the city council is directing this audit, is that correct?
no, we are,
The board is, yeah.
we are.
The
Yeah, we're
board
an
is, okay.
advisory board, but they have given some latitude with the acceptance of the strategic plan and what was in it. Yeah.
Okay, and the city council voted on that?
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Like,
all right, I was just
Quite
trying to
some
figure
time
out,
ago.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, it's probably before my time. Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes, it was
Little
at
bit.
least a
August
year and a
4th.
half ago or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, or more. All right, any other questions? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut anybody online on it. I just can't see you at the moment. Okay, so if we're ready to, let's move on to number 4. Which is the organization has created formal roles and commitments to analyze and achieve DEI initiatives. Which I think will be Mike.
board.
So,
I mean,
okay,
And us.
so,
The
so,
organization is us.
right,
In this
yeah,
case,
and Mike,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
All right, so
I'm not sure on
then,
that.
so anybody have any concerns or questions about that question being included in the audit? All right, seeing none, let's move on to 5. The DEI board represents diverse communities, so that would be this board. So that's just a question that he will analyze who's
Yeah.
on the board and just
And just
Say.
basically, because in the
where are we
ordinance,
lacking on the board?
right, in the ordinance, it gave some specific criteria as to the makeup of the board.
It did,
And
and I
so
don't know that we're compliant.
that was my thought,
We're
was to
supposed to have a
look at,
student, yeah.
to look at the current makeup of the board versus what
A
the
college
ordinance
student.
says.
High school student?
It's
Yeah, there's very specific criteria of who's supposed to be on the board, so,
members of religious, I don't think anybody's clergy.
yeah.
I went to
Are you?
seminary.
I
Does that count?
Right.
Is that in the bylaws?
It's
It's in the
it's in the
ordinance, yeah.
ordinance, yeah.
I was not
It
ordained,
doesn't
but I
say,
did.
it doesn't say you have to have one of
okay.
each, but there's a
It's
list of,
Of-
so that's what I was thinking with
Yes.
that, was just to
We
look at.
just-
I would like to review that. I didn't know that existed. I'd like to.
And again, it's not a situation where it's like, I can provide the summary of, here's the current makeup of the board, here's what the ordinance says. That's a conversation we can have with the council and the mayor
Yes.
is,
There's
currently
still
our
open
board.
seats. Can
Right.
we look at filling them with people who fit this criteria?
Right.
Right, yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
All right, so keeping on moving down to recruitment and hiring. So number 1, our organization utilizes different recruitment channels to attract a diverse applicant pool. So this one will just be,
I'll work with the rest of HR to
yep,
be able to answer that.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions or concerns about this one? All right, moving on to number 2, our job descriptions include diversity and inclusion statements. I think we kind of talked about this briefly, but we still like the answer of yes or no, I think, but anybody have any concerns about this being included? All right, let's keep going. I did forget to mention at the beginning of the meeting that Mike needs to leave by 6:30 because he has children who have things going on tonight. So we want to be respectful of Mike's time. So I'm not trying, I know, but we can't stop the meeting. We can't continue the meeting without Mike here. So, I mean, we can, but we won't be as effective. So number 3, job postings utilize unbiased gender neutral language. Yeah, meaning it's not looking for a specific
Right.
gender for the role. Okay. All right, any concerns about this? All right, number 4, applicants are scored and selected to interview based on qualifications with no regard for protected characteristics. Anybody have any concerns about that? All right. Sweet.
I have
Let's-
I have a question about one of the past, the early, I can't remember what number, but the question about board composition and comparing that to the recommendations. I think I've brought this up before that, like, I don't think when we applied, we necessarily were asked if we were,
In
you know,
any of those-
member, yeah, in any of those categories or classifications. And I don't think we should make any assumptions based upon what we look like about
Right.
whether, you know, so I just wonder if there'll be a survey actually sent to us asking about that, if that would be helpful.
I
I mean,
think I
if
brought this
that's-
up once and I thought that there were some questions asked when we
I-
joined.
There were, but not about specific, like, are you part of this, or this?
Right. How about we look that up? I think where we left it last time is we weren't entirely sure and we were gonna look up the application and see. So I'll follow up on that. Carrie, thank you for that. Let me
Thank
assign
you.
that to myself on my notes that I will probably forget to look at later. I'm writing this down,
So
sorry.
they asked, you know, what types of programs, what's your origin, what's your gender, optional, what, like inclusion of services, programs, policies, things that you do.
Okay, all right, we'll look at that.
And it describes skills, training, expertise, experience that would qualify you to serve on this board.
But not specifically,
Are you in these?
are you
Yeah,
in this
right.
category or
Right,
that
right.
category?
Okay.
Are you
All right,
disabled
so
or
we
you?
were on,
Right.
are we ready for number 5 now?
Yeah.
Okay. Interview questions are designed to measure skill and competence and reduce or eliminate bias during the interview process. Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns about that one? And if I'm moving too fast, please let me know. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure we are getting as much done as we can. Okay, number 6, interview panels are strategically selected to help reduce or eliminate bias during the interview process. All right, I think at this point, if it's silence, I'm just moving on. 7, interview panelists receive a bias training to help reduce or eliminate bias during the interview process. Does the city already have something like that available? Okay, there we go. That's my pause. All right, so on to career advancement. Number 1, there are clear paths for advancement for all employees.
Is that true?
That's a question. It's one of the questions.
No, I'm just asking.
I don't know. That's what we're gonna find
Very
out.
nice.
That's what we're gonna
Okay.
find
I
out.
think so. I've never seen anybody denied an opportunity if they were interested in one to at least put their name in there. No,
So is it encouraged
oh, absolutely.
by their superiors
Mhm.
or supervisors, whatever you want to call them?
I
And if
would,
not, he'll probably find out and then we'll know.
obviously, that's gonna be case by case. I mean, if you have somebody who's struggling in their current role and they wanna
Sure.
promote, it's like, let's
Sure,
take care of this first before you worry
Sure.
about, so.
okay.
All right.
I think what you're asking, the question is a little broad. I wonder how we could. I don't know. If you guys are good with it, I'm good with it.
You know what you mean, but just make sure the
I just-
explanation is clear.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, Art, I did not mean to
That's
interrupt
okay,
you.
that's okay.
Okay,
I just can't imagine that in the size and breadth of the world in the city
right.
employment, that everyone feels that they are being encouraged to seek advancement.
Well, but that would be
I mean,
the
that's
point of doing this,
altruistic.
this audit, correct? Is to find out if they are
Right.
not.
Right,
right, because the
So-
answer could be, what we find is that we
But-
need to put in some kind of mentoring program, or we need to have
Yeah,
some kind
yeah,
of.
that may be the answer is if they're not, then we would
because
like
that
to know to address. that.
supervisor may
Right.
not be one that's that outgoing to encourage
Right,
the thought of even
Mhm.
advancement, because they want to keep you because it's hard enough to find people. You know, that, I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm
Right.
just, but that's whatever.
okay, all right,
It's the
so,
City, it's,
yeah, well, then I think it's valuable to have it in the audit so that we can hopefully find that if it's
Right.
not,
right.
if it's not organizational wide. Okay, so number two.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
Again, I would like a little bit of clarity, just adding on to this. So Mike is going to talk to department heads, right, to ascertain and review current practices within those departments, the trainings and things, to ascertain these things. But is there any outlet or procedure to have these discussions with staff themselves? Like, how are we, where is that information coming from staff? How is that to be assessed?
I think that's what the survey is for.
Yeah,
That's what I was, so you're gonna use the survey to inform this audit?
No,
No.
they're two different things. So this audit is gonna be what we have in place as an organization to make sure this stuff is or is not happening. The survey is gonna be employee attitude, so.
is that working? Are
Right.
those, yeah, the survey will measure if it's working as it's supposed to.
Right, because if you recall, one of the survey questions was everybody has a fair chance at promotional opportunities. So, and that one's on the Likert scale. So if there's a disconnect between what management says is happening and what the employees are saying is happening, then that informs the conversations that we're gonna be having moving forward.
That's exactly what I was hoping, is for you to connect these dots for me. So I appreciate that. The other thing, just generally speaking, is I just wonder, do you feel, I mean, in all fairness and honesty here, do you feel like this subjects you to any negative consequences? The fact that so much of this is resting on you and your assessment, some of which is subjective.
I mean, I don't fear any kind of negative consequence. What are they gonna do to me? I mean, tell me not.
They need you.
Take me off of it.
Exactly.
I'm not really concerned about that. I mean, because the facts are the facts. And if I find that a department is not doing something that's in the policy that they're supposed to be doing, and they get their hands smacked for it, then, they should have been doing it.
Mhm.
So I'm not, I appreciate you being concerned about me, but, I don't anticipate any kind of, negative feedback or negative pushback if I find something that isn't very flattering to a particular department. Or even, and it's all gonna be in the way that we approach it. We're not just gonna come in guns blazing and say, you're doing all of this wrong, you're so horrible. It's gonna be, here's what policy says, this is an opportunity for improvement, here's why we wanna do it this certain way. And, help them understand why doing it this particular way is gonna be important going forward.
And yes, I am concerned about you. So, I mean, a lot of times that's why you do a third party and why you do an outside consultant in part, right? Is also for it to be objective, I mean, anyway, so I was just a little bit concerned about that and kind of the position it puts you in. But if you're okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate the concern,
All right.
sincerely.
All right, so moving on to number 2, our organization provided training opportunities for employees interested in advancing their careers. All right. Number 3, our organization provides mentorship opportunities for employees interested in advancing their career. Another good one to know. All right. We, he already knows the answer to that one. We're already feeling that one apparently. All right. Okay, well, it's good for us to know so that we can make some recommendations then. All right, so that comes to the end of this document that we were working our way through. So I think we provided you with some feedback, Mike, there that we, on some things we'd like more clarity or,
I will update that draft and just send it back out for the next meeting.
Okay.
It shouldn't take me long. There's only a couple.
Yeah. And if we can just highlight those couple, because in my opinion, we've already settled the rest. I don't want to revisit the entire document. I want to revisit the couple that we've already discussed, that we might want to change and then come back to that. All right, so our next agenda, next item on the agenda is City of Wichita.
Recipio.
Scipio overview. All right, sorry about that. I should have read that ahead
Is
of.
that something we know about already?
So in the last meeting, one of the goals on the strategic plan talked about making mandatory training for DEI. I went and met with our training manager, Betty, and asked her, what do we have? And so the great thing is with Recipio, there's already an 11-course leading DEI in the workplace package of trainings that can be taken.
Are physically already in your,
We already have access to them. They're already in there. They're not mandatory.
but still they're there?
But yes, so we really don't have to like reinvent the wheel on this because they already exist, which is fantastic. So I'll give you the course titles real quick. Adopting new leadership mindsets to drive DEI, activating DEI culture shifts, advancing DEI with agility, embedding inclusion into everyday experiences, reimagining the employee experience, DEI from hire to retire, bringing differences in cross-cultural communication, building shared understanding across cultural divides, improving collaboration through psychological safety, maintaining multi-generational employees, how culture impacts communication, and using communication strategies to bridge cultural divides. So I think, you know, making things mandatory is going to be
Right,
pretty.
that's not in our scope, right?
Right. But I think shining a light on these training opportunities is definitely something we can do. And like putting an added emphasis on this packet of trainings. I was talking to Betty about they have training certificates that the city recognizes. Perhaps this can be one of the certificates. So while not mandatory, if a person who's interested in becoming a supervisor takes the time to get this particular certificate when they go for a promotion, that can be weighed positively in their favor.
That is over and above what's gonna be required
Right,
that they have to do every year.
right.
Right,
Yeah,
because
10
again,
minutes.
we don't have the authority to tell the city what they're required to train their employees. That was not within the authority we were granted.
right.
So, yeah,
But yet we're auditing them if they've done it.
right, we're giving them feedback as part of our
Right.
advisory, because auditing informs the advice we give them. Mandating to them how they're gonna do that. We are not elected officials. They should be the ones making those choices.
But I was encouraged by the fact that these already exist.
Yeah,
And so that is
I'm
like,
not asking them to spend any money to do this,
How-
yes.
So you weren't aware of it until you asked?
so I knew they do have some leadership development certificates and trainings, but it wasn't this DEI package. It was more about, how to deal with a problem employee, how to, coaching and corrective action, just kind of the general stuff that employees and supervisors might need to know. But the DEI specific ones, I didn't know about until I talked to Betty and she said, oh, they exist. So.
So she was involved with buying it, probably.
Yeah, so I guess what Precipio is just like a big library
Yeah.
of trainings.
Yeah,
And
an outside source.
Yeah, and you get access to, once you buy a certain level, you get access to their entire catalog.
It's great.
That's what you mentioned
That's
last time, right?
perfect.
That was-
Right, that he was gonna look into that, so
Yeah.
that's following back up.
It's great news.
Great, so I think that's wonderful, and personally, I think your idea of seeing if this could be a separate certificate that could be earned is an excellent way to
Encouraged.
move forward,
Yeah,
yes.
it's more, it would be more encouraged if they could get a little star.
And they can take that with them when they go to
Little
work
star.
A
someplace
little
else.
star
put it
on their
yeah.
resume.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Their
hopefully learn
LinkedIn
something in the process, and hopefully put that into practice.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Any more discussion on this update? All right, so goal number 3 is goals to accomplish in 2025. And specifically the staff survey update. So Mike, I'll let you give that update.
Okay, so last meeting, the board requested two things. Number one, that we approach the law department and ask them to take a look at the proposed ordinance.
That's gonna be in the next agenda item. We're talking about staff survey update, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's normally me doing that, so you're good.
I'm skipping ahead. Okay, the survey. So we, Lily had a good conversation with communications.
Okay,
There were a couple of things that they wanted us to tweak. They don't like, I guess some of the council people didn't like the word climate in
okay.
the survey, so we're working to remove
Why?
I feel like,
I don't know.
Why
Did you
is
get a,
They're just sensitive with the word. There are a couple council members
Yeah,
that
but-
don't want it, so
Did they have-
it's easier.
but it's not about like their personal feelings, it's about facts and like. So I
They
think-
have a
Yes, but if the, we want the city to send this out, the
Yeah,
council
the
has to sign off on
I
it,
was
so.
not given a recommended word
Just
synonym
curious.
for
Yeah, we-
climate, just.
we were
I was
just gonna
encouraged
delete
to
the word
remove
climate
it.
and just call it the survey.
Okay. Okay.
What
I
is-
was not gonna
Did they
die on
think it
that
was
hill.
about the environment versus the city? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm literally curious.
I have no
as to
idea.
why that word.
What is the
was triggered.
survey about?
The climate of this employees, how the employees feel about the working
Yeah,
climate within the
yeah.
city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
employee attitudes towards,
It's a
DEI.
different word.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, the council didn't like it, so we were just gonna remove it.
Well, there is a
That-
climate action plan going on right now,
Yeah, I
I
think
guess.
it's a
Maybe they
little-
think that they're gonna get conflated.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
I
so. Maybe
see
they're
that.
just asking for more
I
clarity.
see that because people are more focused on.
I know.
Well,
All right.
Did you make those?
To me, it wasn't a hill to die on.
bought
If
it.
you guys wanna take up that fight, feel free.
I just was wondering if they had a
I'll
substitute
be
word
looking at
they
it.
were
I'll
happier
be
I'm
with.
just getting rid of the word.
Okay, all right,
All right.
continue on, sorry.
We
Whatever.
also put together talking points for the mayor, I'm sorry, not the mayor, for the city manager, who's going to be doing a brief video.
Okay,
Now, we're looking at putting out the survey early January. We didn't want to do it now because we're
No.
gonna be butting up against
Yeah.
holidays and people not being in town and not being here. So we're good to go. We just, a couple of tweaks. We got the talking points to the manager, did we? We made them. We have talking points. And then communications is gonna film a little vignette. The letter is ready to go. That's gonna accompany the survey. And I think it's just sending it out.
okay. All right. Good news. She did recommend warming those up, but I was not able to do that, so there you go. I'll change around it.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right, so the next item on the agenda, under board agenda, would now be reparations update from city staff.
Just one, you guys did want to finish going through this, so if you don't want to.
I think at this point, our time constraint, let's,
Okay.
yeah, we've got plenty to work on for this agenda, and we will move on to that, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, so for the reparations update, like I was saying before, so you guys were asked, there were two things that were requested. The first was to have the law department take a look at the proposed ordinance and give their opinion on whether or not it would pass legal scrutiny. If it didn't, what parts did they have concern about? And then you requested that an attorney come in and speak with you about it. I passed that request on to Dante, who passed that request to Jennifer Magana, our, the director of the law department. She has assigned an attorney to it, but they're still working on it. So we don't have.
Do we know who the attorney is?
I don't.
Okay, that's
I will
fine.
find out.
That's-
The person who I thought was gonna get it didn't.
Okay,
And so I'll have to.
all right, that's
find out.
fine.
And then the other thing that was requested was, information, on other jurisdictions, other municipalities,
Right.
what they're doing, how they've done it.
That's what you provided.
Yeah. So Lily, and I did a little bit of research, and what we did was we focused on, municipalities that were in the Midwest, close to Wichita, similarly sized to Wichita. There were some places like New York City has conducted a study, but I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
that's
We're
New
not
York City.
comparing
We're
to New
not,
York
yeah.
City.
So we looked for comparables in the Midwest, similarly sized, and we came up with Evanston, Illinois, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Iowa City, Iowa, Kansas City, Missouri, and St. Louis, Missouri. Each of these have some form of proposal, for either direct payments for reparations or for forming a committee. Some of them have already formed committees. So we'll go through these real quick. So Evanston, back in 2019, they put together a committee. They actually have made payments. Now, unlike Wichita, they have used the cannabis tax money.
Oh,
Okay.
So that's kind of a
We don't have
Okay.
that.
non-starter
Right.
for Wichita. So that's where,
As far as
that's,
funding goes.
that's how they
right.
funded it, was with
Okay.
their
Okay.
cannabis tax. Citizens have to prove ancestry, or ancestors affected by, and there's focus mostly on housing segregation, so redlining that occurred in that city. Which is similar to the proposal that's for Wichita.
Okay.
Yeah. Tulsa, Oklahoma, they formed a commission, so they haven't actually sent out any money. They just have it, they're just at the commission stage. It is a city commission, and they produced a recommendation and implementation plan for housing equity programs, to advance the goal of creating.
I'm sorry. Back up on Evanston, Illinois. Oh, we're still on Evanston. I'm sorry.
Well, no,
No,
did you have a question about it?
Yes, I did. I had a question on, the legal challenges. It says here, a conservative legal group challenged the initiative stating that it was discriminative to only offer reparations to Black residents. What was the outcome of that challenge, or was there not an outcome yet?
I don't believe there was an outcome.
Okay.
I don't think
I think it's
anything
still
further
pending.
happened. They just, that was the only actual legal challenge that I could find.
Okay, thank you.
So are they still paying money out
I think it stopped. I think-
after the 203 residents?
I think it's tied up in litigation, so they had to stop making,
Pause.
yeah, until that's resolved. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, we were just there for a whole, that's the thing.
Okay,
The big
go ahead.
deal, the whole national things in Evanston. One of the things they did say, because I brought up, marijuana from Kansas, she said, do not start with talking about marijuana. So they, they may have gone to that. But initially, that was not their direction, because she was really clear about the term. But the thing is, the people that you have listed, which is kind of, I saw all of them just a few days ago. You can have direct contact with them, and they're willing to come, like you have them on screen. They've already said, because they're supporting people all over the country.
Okay.
So, Robin Ruth Simmons, who is sort of the superstar right now, she's in Evanston, and she's the one that actually launched a lot of this stuff. And so some of the details, I can't give you specifics, because there's about 20 or 30 municipalities doing this, but she has said that she would, if she could come here, she'd come here physically, but if you have a way for them to get on there, you get people on there.
Okay,
Even
that
the
sounds
ones who go
great.
to the Vatican. So you have, they are lawyers, so I don't know who the lawyer is here, but they have most of it, and there's millions of dollars going on. So they do have people who can talk about that, and I didn't get the understanding that they had stopped because they felt very positive about what was going on in court right now.
Okay,
Okay, so.
so that would be great. After the meeting,
And
if I would love to
Tulsa
get.
is on fire. I don't know what you think, but they had like 10 people that were told, Tulsa is on fire.
Okay, all right, we'll continue on then. And after the meeting, I'll get your contact information so we can get that information from you. Thank you very much. All right, so moving on to
Okay.
Tulsa.
So Tulsa has impaneled a commission, and the only cost is gonna be staff time. the commission, because they aren't making any direct payments at this time. So yeah, they're working on a proposal.
Have a whole report on their website called the Beyond Apology Report. It's very detailed. but
Okay.
No payments have happened as a result.
Okay.
Iowa City, we have an ad hoc Truth and Reconciliation Committee that was formed. Again, no cost other than staff time. They also are just at the committee stage, so they haven't made any payments yet. There's no legal challenges, again, because this is still at the commission stage. And then you can see how often they meet. Similarly, Kansas City, Missouri, the mayor created a commission. Again, no payments are being made, so it's just a committee at this point. The only cost right now is staff time. No legal challenges yet because they aren't making any payments. It's just a
Well, they
commission.
haven't even made any recommendations.
Yeah.
Just, I'll make this real quick, because we're on Zoom meetings all the time. Kansas City, Missouri got 300,000 for their commission. So what Mary came with was just permission. We're not, like you're talking about
Right.
payouts. But we just want to start doing research.
Right, we understand that. Right now, we're doing research so that we can
But they did
compare the
say that
information.
Kansas City got 300,000 to be able to do the work of the commission. So
And where did they get that from?
I don't know, but there are people, at this meeting, they had actual funders
Okay,
who were willing to go get the money because they want to monetize this thing, so they have help to do that.
okay,
So
all right, thank you. All right.
And then Kansas City, St. Louis,
Uh-huh.
again, an ad hoc committee that they have put together. Again, no payments at this time. And that commission meets twice a month. So all the ones we found, 4 of the 5 are still, they form a committee to at least look at what it could be.
Okay.
I would be interested to find out, and we can look into that, how Kansas City, Missouri funded theirs. You know, where that 300,000 came from.
Right,
Um,
definitely, we
We're all-
will.
Detroit got 500,000, so it's a number of them, but it's for the commission, they're not in the committees, they're commission.
Right,
And so they have, you know, so, but I don't keep talking, but I got a whole list of.
Okay.
No shortage of resources.
perfect, thank you, I appreciate that, and we will get that from you, appreciate it very much.
Hey, I just had a question. One of the guests that is speaking, I'm having a hard time hearing her. Is there a way
Okay.
that we can get her to the mic and introduce to this, who this is?
Can you come closer to the table, the mics are on the table, if you just wanna maybe sit over here to talk, yeah, sorry. Just grab a chair.
Are we finished?
Because I know you have.
I
He has
think
to leave.
Talia wants to find out who this is, so I'm just
Oh,
gonna
I
let her
thought we
introduce
already-
herself.
I thought we
Yeah.
already did that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Prophet Anyanu Cox, and I'm the chair of the Wichita Reparations Coalition, which right now just has a logo. Mary Dean and I worked together for the last year, you know, getting the ordinance to the mayor and then changing and all that. But we're part of a national group. Some of the national group have been to the Vatican, so they're also international, okay? So the thing is, what I'm saying is that these reports are okay, but they kind of downplay what you're seeing, because there are over 20-some municipalities across the country, and some of them have gotten 500,000, but it's for the commission. So these are set up just to get data. Is there a case for reparations in Wichita? We can't say that until we have the commission to do the research. We have some information, so all these places start with a task force, with a commission or something.
Right,
And then they need people to be able to do the research, universities, lawyers or whatever. And so then they need money to be able to do that. And so many of them have got that 300,000, 500,000. So they have made real progress. This doesn't really show that. But you, I'll put you in touch because Robin, the one in
yes,
Evanston,
I appreciate
she
that.
has the whole database of who does this work. Okay, so.
This Kansas City mayor approved, committed to proposing that the city approve 210,000 of the 510
Yeah,
requested.
he didn't get one.
And then
Right.
approval of the city funds with council, and then the rest money, they are gonna ask the civic and business community for.
And if you pull up how many municipalities have approved commissions? of some kind.
Right,
But
right.
we'll be able to get that, but you don't have to do
We'll
that
get
today.
that, we'll get
Yeah,
that
'cause
before
we got-
another meeting.
We just
yeah.
left the whole,
So did you say the city funded part of it and then the rest they were gonna approach the business community?
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it just says the city has, the mayor Quentin Lucas is committed to proposing that the city approve 210,000.
He's
So they
committed
committed
but
to
he
it, they
hasn't
haven't
done it.
proposed.
Yeah.
They've already got RFPs out because we've been calling people who want to be the researchers.
Okay,
MacArthur
we'll go
Foundation-
ahead and get that from
Okay,
you.
the MacArthur
later.
Foundation funded what we just went to,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's-
Colonizing Wealth Fund, and several of the different organizations said they're working to raise 200,000, so this does not have to be an obstacle. So
Okay,
there's a lot of advocacy and there are a lot of allies, so
Mhm.
anyway.
all right, thank you, appreciate your input. All right, so then on to our next agenda item is the community action and public engagement efforts. If anybody has anything in the community that will be happening in the next few weeks that we should be aware of.
I have one that I will announce for
Okay.
this Saturday. It's coming up fast. At Barleycorns, there's going to be a night this Saturday night called Punk Christmas. We have 4 punk bands coming in, and admission is $10 or a brand new or a lightly used winter outfit. And everything is going to charity. So.
So
punk bands
what's your,
raise money.
what's your band name? Band's name?
Well, my band unfortunately will not be playing on this because we have a member who will be out of town. It's a medical thing with his child, so I'll be closing off the night with a thing called Ian's Acoustapunk.
So what time will you be performing?
I'm closing off.
Like
So
2:00 in the morning?
I'll be closing off probably around 12:30.
They don't play late anymore.
Yeah. Maybe before that, but yeah, it starts at 9:00 at Barleycorns. And like I said,
Cool.
we're raising funds and money for those in need, and we're also as well as winter clothing for people, so.
Good.
All right, anything else?
I've been sick and under a rock at the hospital with my dad, so I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
You made an appearance
all
today.
right.
I saw you.
So the last item on the agenda is recommended agenda items for the next meeting. I think we already have quite a few, so unless anybody has any strong opinions about something else we should add to it, then we'll probably call it a night, so poor Mike can get to his meeting.
I did have a quick question
Yes,
from
ma'am.
the last month's, maybe you guys were talking about this one, or no, we were just talking about reparations. When Mary Dean, was this from November? Yeah, the city council meeting in November where she, gave every council member a folder
Uh-huh.
of information. Do we have that information? Is it the same or is it new
I
information?
believe
I don't know
that,
what you gave.
I don't know what
Okay.
she gave everybody. We can find that out. Probably we can ask.
Like, can we
them.
ask our council member,
Yeah,
like about that? Can I
Yeah,
have that
feel
folder?
free.
Okay.
yeah.
I would assume if it
It's-
were different from what you've already received.
Right, we
from
got
her,
all
they would
from
have made
last
that
time.
available,
Mhm.
because
But
they know
it's
that you're
not bad
looking
to
at this.
check. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, but
And then one other question,
Yes,
do we ever talk with or work with the Citizens Review Board or, well, yeah, formerly the Racial Profiling Advisory Board?
We have not yet. I think
See,
that's
like, what they're
probably,
doing.
well, because we're still working our way through our strategic plan.
Mhm.
And I think there is a point in that strategic plan where we will get to that. It's just, we're still trying to work through
I didn't know
it
if you
in
had
an
in the
organized
past, since it's been
manner.
formed since 2017, so I didn't know.
That board has been, but we have not been, right? Yes, all right. So does anybody have anything else? And I apologize, I really feel like I've been rushing people. I'm just trying to let Mike get to his children's
I
Christmas
appreciate it.
stuff, so.
I do appreciate
All
it.
right,
Is it a
so
school
I'm,
program?
yeah.
Nice.
So I am going to adjourn the meeting at 6:34 PM and please grab snacks. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, thank you.
Christmas.
Hang on just a second. I'm sorry, what? Did you want?